Check out this clip from Headspace Studios' podcast series, Dear Headspace.
Hey, my name is Gabriel. I'm from Jersey. I'm living in St. Petersburg, Florida. I feel like I'm doing all the right things. I'm at the gym every day. I'm bike riding, I'm boxing, I meditate, I'm doing red light therapy, drinking a gallon of water, eating the right foods, going to bed early, and I still feel totally unsettled, uneasy, and unfulfilled. I resisted getting a traditional 9-to-5 for 6 years after I graduated college. And in addition to that, I was traveling a lot and living a very nomadic lifestyle, constantly between cities and Airbnbs. And a long story short, all those things have recently ground to a halt. I got a 40-hour work week job for the first time in my entire life 2 months ago. I signed a 12-month lease before the start of this year, and things have really settled down. But it's starting to feel like life is just bills and rent and figuring out what to defrost for dinner for the next day. I feel like I'm doing all the right things, and it's not getting me what I want. I'm constantly lost in nostalgia for the debauchery and camaraderie and exhilaration I used to feel years ago, even though I know for a fact that I'm really just looking back on those times with rose-tinted glasses, and the reality was a lot more complicated. I'm also really envious of other people who are just okay in their lives, everyone who's just going out on a Friday night, people who are just content, like they don't have the world on their shoulders. Whereas I'm counting every penny, feeling like I have so much to prove, and just totally terrified that life is passing me by while I'm waiting on a paycheck. I feel so stuck, and I just don't want to feel restless anymore. Any advice would help.
Oh, Gabriel, you are in it right now. You're in it. I mean, it sounds like you're at a big transition point. You had this very nomadic lifestyle, and now all of a sudden you're working for the man and your paycheck. And that's a big transition. That's a lot to get used to. So, I mean, we have to start there.
We definitely have to start there. I think that, for one, it sounds like Gabriel had everything mapped out, right? Like, I'm not working for the man. I'm nomading, all of the things. Like, yes, I want to live that life too. Like now, right?
I know.
I think, when you make a transition, right, any change, there has to be some acceptance of it, right, of where you are, where you're going to be. And I get it. Being an adult sometimes ain't fun. You know what I mean? Like the bills and all of the things.
Yeah.
You say you're drinking your water. Yeah.
And we were all nodding during and I'm just having to defrost something.
Exactly. And I think that just that perspective, and again, you talked about looking back at your life with rose-tinted glasses. And I'm sure during those times you thought like, man, I wish things were a little bit different. It would have been nice to, be a little bit more comfortable. But, I think every transition in life has its point where that we need that thing, like it's exciting, or it solves the problem, right? And so this is a different one. And if you find yourself always fighting that, it can be hard to get through that season, right? Through that transition. And it sounds like right now you're kind of railing against what your life is and looking at everybody else's life whose life you think is grand and great. It's not. I'm just going to tell you it isn't.
No.
Right.
We're
and
out here defrosting
too,
stuff
right?
too. Like.
And as they say, comparison is the thief of joy, right? So we're comparing ourselves to a life that we don't really know. They're out on Friday nights, smoking hookah, drinking whatever, doing whatever they want to do, but we don't know why they're doing that or what else is going on in their life. So it's really, when I think about, again, my own transitions, like getting settled, like in that transition, like, okay, this is where I am. This is what's happening. Now, how am I going to respond? So that I can enjoy this moment, right? Enjoy where I am. Like what are the things I can find to enjoy this time? And you'll be surprised what you can find. I mean, it's not fun living paycheck to paycheck. It's not. I've been there, done that. It's not. But then there are times where I found those, pockets of joy and like, man, that was a good time. That fun. So finding that and that transition, because eventually this is going to end too, and you'll be in a different season of the transition.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you're saying that because it's like it's like, yes, and it's also possible, like, maybe you overshot it a little bit. Like, maybe you wildly overcorrected in the other direction. Like, it could also be a time to ask some hard questions of, like, is this, like, really what I want for myself? You know, I in this question, I hear also a lot about, you know, we went through a global pandemic and a lot of our lives shifted and changed and became like, I just went on vacation. And while I was away, I was like, I had this realization of like, my life has gotten really small. I live in this apartment. I work in this apartment. I take this walk and I do this. And I was like, how do I add back in things that were part of my life before? So like, did you go too far? Could you come back to the middle? Or are there aspects of your life that you could bring into your current day so that, you know, because it's like sometimes it's like if the setup's not right, all the meditating and the whatever in the world is, you're still going to be like, ho hum at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a fruitless effort. Yeah. No, I totally agree with what you're both saying. And the only I can relate it to, there was a moment in my career life, actually that same year where I told you all that I watched Mad Men, all 5 seasons of Mad Men in like 2 days or something. I was traveling a lot for work, and it was my dream. That's all I wanted. I wanted to be traveling and, you know, teaching and doing, you know, all of the things that people that I followed were doing. And you know, I was in Bali, and then I'd fly back to San Diego. And then from San Diego, I went to Scotland. And then from Scotland, I came back to LA. And then I went to, you know, Oregon. It was just kind of like a constant.
Tired already.
Yeah. And in the moment, you know, I felt like I was doing everything that I wanted to be doing. And then the minute that it stopped, I was tired. I stopped, and then I completely overcorrected in the other way. Then it was like, I don't want to ever leave my house. I don't want to do anything. But then I got really down, you know, and obviously you're kind of transitioning from that super hyperactive state of constant motion, kind of like what Gabriel was saying about, you know, I'm doing the red light therapy, and I'm doing, you know, all of and I'm working out, and I'm, you know, doing all of the things, drinking the gallon of water, and, you know, all of the things he said he's doing. And then you go straight into, now I'm working a 9 to 5, and I've got this routine, and I'm defrosting food. And it's like I went from hyper active to now I'm in this state of, you know, factory of just mundane. And so I think that there's, it's the over course correction in the other direction. I really love what you're saying, Robin, about perhaps like incorporating a little bit of what you were doing before into what you're doing now. But that deep sense of dissatisfaction, from what I'm hearing, is really interesting. And that's more of a symptom of dissatisfaction with what I would call like primary food, right? So when I went to nutrition school, we would always talk about primary food and secondary food. So primary food is the things that really nourish us, right? Relationships, hobbies, our spirituality, our, you know, cooking, spending time, you know, doing the things that feed us, right? That really nourish our being. And secondary is like the foods you eat. Eat fruits, vegetables, you know, eat well, get enough sleep, that kind of thing. And it sounds like anytime I've heard people talk about this feeling of dissatisfaction, my question is always, it's like the 3 M's, right? Meaningful relationships, meaningful work, and movement, right? So for me, in my experience, what I find when I have all 3, I feel really satisfied, right? Because I have meaningful relationships. I'm keeping in touch with my friends, even though I'm not seeing them every day. I'm voice noting them, or I'm sending a text, I'm checking in. There's a dialogue. Or I have, you know, a romantic relationship. So I try to stay in connection with my partner. Meaningful work, like I'm doing something that I feel deeply committed to. There's a bigger mission. It's like, I'm not thinking about the day-to-day, the task list that, you know, it's going to keep piling on. I'm thinking, what is the big intention behind my work? How is this impacting the greater good? And then movement, obviously, movement is always the key to any time you feel stuck. It's like, if I'm feeling stuck and I find that for the last 7 days, I saw this meme on Instagram that was like, oh, I'm feeling down. And then it's like the same person, the other POV. Did you get up today? No. Did you walk today? No. Did you drink any water today? No. Did you call a friend? No. Did you stop scrolling? No. And it's like, all the things. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really dissatisfied, or I'm feeling really stuck. And it's like, I've not left my house in 7 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I wonder why.
Yeah. So I think that those are really great cues to look for, or really great ways using the 3M sort of management tool to assess where you're at, to give you an idea of, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit more of this to really address that unsatisfied feeling.
Because it sounds a little bit like Gabrielle, maybe, and I'm just saying maybe but I recognize this in this question because it's very much me. But like a to-do lister, like I want to fix this, and so I'm going to do this. I'm going to then do this, and I'm doing red light therapy, and I'm working out, and I'm doing this. Versus maybe looking at it in a very meaningful way and saying, what does my body need today? What does my mind need today? What do what's the thing, like, is maybe me cutting out of work for half the day and going to the movie and not telling my boss, is that going to bring me joy? Might. The idea of looking at what you're doing from like just a different perspective, and maybe with a little less pressure on it, that it just, like I'm all for making that list and doing all the things, but I know that if I'm listing to check things off because I think it's supposed to help me versus like coming at it differently, it just doesn't have the effect I want it to have. Well, Gabrielle, I mean, the one thing I can say is that, like, I think Neca said it earlier, like, you will come through this. These things come and these things go. I feel like I was all winter bluesy, and then the sun started coming out and I was like, geez, I feel better. And it's like, and I forget every spring, and then every spring the sun comes out, and the sun always comes back up. So we're with you, and we hope that this gets better and you find a little bit of your old self in your current self, or maybe a new self. I don't know. I'm giving you a lot of personalities. Thank you for trusting us and for sharing with us. And if you're out there and you're listening and you're feeling inspired, or you just want a little bit of help, don't be shy, I say. Just reach out to us and record your question. It's so easy. You just have to go to sayhi.chat/dearheadspace, and you're going to follow the prompts. And of course, that link is in the show notes. And if we use your question on Dear Headspace, you're going to get 3 months of Headspace for free. Pretty great deal. Until next time, stay happy,
stay healthy,
and be kind to each other.